Hello, everybody. This is episode 49 of our podcast, Artificial Intelligence and Cybersurgery. My name is Dr. Andrew Gumbs. I'm here with, I believe, Professor Thierry Berney from the University of Geneva. And we met recently in Tbilisi at Tbilisi State University. And I'm so pleased to meet him. I just want to remind everybody that our journal, Artificial Intelligence Surgery, is the first journal dedicated exclusively to artificial intelligence and surgery. My co-host, Dr. Vincent Grasso, isn't available today, but I was really too excited to get Thierry on, and I want to talk about a potential collaboration with him and our journal a little bit later. But first, Thierry, can you please let our listeners know where you're from, where you did your training, where you worked, why I met you in Georgia, and of course about your lovely wife. I'm allowed to say that still, hopefully.
You are. Okay, so thanks, Andrew, and thanks for having me on your podcast. So yeah, effectively we met a couple of weeks ago, I believe, in Tbilisi, in Georgia, and during a symposium on artificial intelligence in surgery held by the Tbilisi State University. So why did we meet, and how on earth am I in Georgia? So I'm a professor of surgery and transplantation, and I'm the previous chief of transplantation at the University of Geneva Hospital. I was trained in transplantation in Geneva, but mostly in Belgium, where I specifically specialized in pancreas transplantation, and then in the US at the University of Miami, where I extended my expertise in multi-organ transplantation, small bowel, liver, kidney, pancreas, and islet transplantation. So I retired a year ago from my position in Geneva due to old age. And
hopefully it gets to all of us.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, it's, if you think about it, it's lucky to be able to age. But my lovely wife, as you mentioned, is from Georgia, and that's the reason why I decided to devote part of my time to develop a kidney transplantation program in Tbilisi, in Georgia, and that's how we met. So the rest of my time I devote to, but I'm almost doing nothing in Switzerland at the moment, but I'm also the director of the islet transplantation program at the University of Lyon in France. And I'm also the editor-in-chief of Transplant International, which is the journal of the European Society of Organ Transplantation. So I'm active, retired person.
Well, yeah, still operating. You're more than you're very active. I hope I'm not as active as you when I'm retired. I believe you also recently you have your license in Georgia to practice. So you're more than active. That's fantastic. They really need, good transplantologists, in Georgia. So it's wonderful that you're there. But can you take me back a little bit further? Where in Switzerland did you grow up? And was your native language French growing up, or German? And why did you go into transplant?
That's another long story. So I was born and raised in Geneva, which is in the French-speaking part of Switzerland. It's an international city with lots of international organization. The European headquarters of the UN is there, WHO, Red Cross, you name it. So it's a quite active and interesting city to grow up in. So I basically did my medical studies in Geneva, and I always thought that I should do a little bit of basic research before going into the active training residency. I always wanted to do surgery also, and when I applied and I tried to find a position in research, I was attracted to basic immunology. So I did 2 years of basic research in immunology, and more specifically in autoimmune diseases, working on rodent models. And the connection between surgery and immunology was natural. The natural meeting point was transplantation. So to go a little bit further, for me, what I really like and enjoy in transplantation is that it's the opposite of a one-man job. It's not something for learners. It's something where you need to collaborate with other colleagues of various specialties, gastroenterology, nephrology, psychiatry, and so on and so forth. Immunology, it's of course, but it's also something where the collaboration with other professions, paramedics, coordinators, nurses, physical therapists, and so on, is extremely important. So when I was the chief of transplantation in Geneva, I really thrived to put together a division that was really inclusive of everybody, regardless of specialty and profession. And I hope that I succeeded in creating a great working environment there.
From the limited time I've met you, I'm sure that is the case. When I was a medical student, really my first experience in medicine, in surgery, I should say, in Europe, was actually at Bern, at the Inselspital, where Marcus Buchler was the chairman at the time, and I just fell in love with Bern. I learned about muesli, which I would have every day, best muesli in the world. Oh my goodness. I didn't know you could put that many berries in muesli. But also at the, Inselspital is interesting for our listeners because that's where Professor Kocher used to work, and he's the only general surgeon to get the Nobel Prize for Medicine for his work on iodine and thyroid, health, if you will. And the reason I really loved Bern is number one, you could jump off into the river, and you could like a crazy person and go down towards these rapids, and they would have little rope that you could grab onto. And if you didn't grab onto the last rope, you would apparently get mangled to death by this contraption at the end of the river. That was incredible fun. I mean, something which, would never be possible in the United States. But at the bottom of the hill from the hospital, there was an anarchist commune with a DJ, with a cafe where there was smoking, no tobacco smoking, but it was an amazing, I really loved Switzerland. So you must have had an amazing time in Geneva. But
well, I did.
Yeah.
I like Bern too. It's a lovely town. It's the capital of the country. Not many people know it, but it's by far not the largest city. It's the fourth largest city of the country only.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Even Einstein was there for a time. I went to visit his, wherever his apartment or what have you. But when I saw your presentation, I was really shocked. Number one, by all the wonderful things happening in transplant and the AI world. But in particular, I loved what was the difference between islet cell transplantation in the United States and Europe. Last time I had a patient who needed an islet cell transplant. She needed a total pancreatectomy. She had chronic pancreatitis, removed her pancreas laparoscopically, but the poor woman, she couldn't afford the islet cell transplant. She would have had to go to the Mayo Clinic, spend God knows how much money. So she just opted just to have her pancreas removed. So that is my last experience with islet cell transplantation. But in Europe, it's a little bit different. It's not a private practice type of thing. Is it? Can you explain to our listeners a little bit how islet cell is taken care
Absolutely. Yeah, so, well, there are two things there, because what you are referring to is autologous islet transplantation after total pancreatectomy. So see, this is something that is done quite a bit in the US. The most active center is, in fact, the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. And I believe that it's not necessarily something that is unaffordable for patients. You have to go to the right place. And this is something that is authorized and quite active in the US. Actually, I believe that the US is the most active country in the world for islet autotransplantation after total pancreatectomy. But there is a big difference with allogenic islet transplantation. So this is an alternative therapeutic modality, alternative to whole pancreas transplantation for patients with type 1 diabetes. And as you know, many of these type 1 diabetes patients are fragile, and pancreas transplantation is a tricky surgery, and it's not always very well tolerated. So these patients can be candidates for an islet transplant. The starting, the raw material, if you allow me to say that, is the same. It's the pancreas from a deceased donor. And from this pancreas, instead of transplanting the whole gland, you will bring it to a laboratory and isolate the islets, and then transplant them as a cell transplant modality. The islets are rapidly infused into the liver of the recipient. So this is a big problem in the US, because the FDA has ruled that allogenic islets are like a medication, a drug, and that should respond to all the constraints of a pharmaceutical component. So, and this has basically killed the field in the US. In Europe, it's very different. Islets have been ruled as being just a tissue transplant, so more or less like an organ, not something that is not a drug-like. And
Yeah.
there are two reasons for that. The first is they don't want companies to be involved, and commercialization of this to be done, because this is what is implied by the fact that it's a drug. Companies will step in and are likely to be able to sell something that comes from basically a donated organ. So that's a big problem. The second is that there are lots of implications regarding how do you allocate them. If it's regulated as an organ, it's much easier to allocate and to administer.
Yeah, it is a logistical nightmare, and it was so interesting to me to really hear about this, because I was never exposed to this in the United States, because you explained to me why, and it was mind-blowing to say the least. Now, we also saw your presentation and other people talking about the potential for AI to dramatically impact transplant surgery. I mean, I can imagine already an algorithm that could be created to better choose which patients should undergo allografts, are they doing autologous transplants in Europe also of islet cells?
Yes.
You're doing both.
Yes,
Okay.
we are. Not to the same extent as in the US, but we are, yeah.
But it would be wonderful to create an algorithm that could actually see which would be better for some patients. The reason I'm kind of so interested in this is I remember during my residency when pancreatic transplants were being done. I mean, the morbidity and the failure rates were astronomical, and the fact that you could instead just inject a cadaver's islet cells into the liver, I mean, who wouldn't want that if you could avoid a surgery? I know I'm preaching to the choir, but
yeah, well, but Andrew, there's no free lunch, and the cost of the lower morbidity of islet transplantation is that the functional efficiency is not quite as good as a whole pancreas. So that's why you really have to do always a risk-benefit ratio. And as you say, this would be typically a topic in which developing artificial intelligence-based algorithm would be extremely helpful to decide, which patient would be better suited for a whole pancreas or for an islet transplant, depending on his age, his comorbidities, its general fitness, and also the objectives and the situation. So I think this is something that would be absolutely useful and fantastic to do. And I don't think it would be especially difficult to work on that.
Now, can you give people multiple islet cells from multiple donors?
Yes, and that's what we are doing. I'm talking about allogenic, because in autologous, obviously, there's one pancreas.
You have one shot. Yeah, one shot.
So what we do, in fact, is because when we do when you do the islet transplantation, you have to extract the islets from the pancreas, and this is a pretty complex technical procedure, and there is a loss of tissue during the procedure. And for this reason, you need to give a second or a third islet transplant to be able to reach insulin independence. Now, what you can also do is once, if you lose function over time, something that you can repeat like 5 years, 10 years down the line without much difficulty also. So, but multiple islet injections from multiple donors is the rule in islet transplantation.
And is it just an intravenous injection at the end of the day? Or in the portal vein?
In the portal vein. So it's a percutaneous. You have to have a good radiologist who will access the portal vein percutaneously with a catheter, with a US guided, and then they do a portogram to make sure they are in the right place. And once they have accessed the portal vein, the catheter is in place, they can inject slowly the islets into the liver through the portal vein. And in fact, the transplant surgeon is an interventional radiologist in this case.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a topic I love to discuss, how surgery is no longer traditional surgery. It's also, what we call now percutaneous surgery, everything that an interventional radiologist does, or endoscopic surgery, used to mean laparoscopy and arthroscopy and thoracoscopy, but now I think endoscopic surgery should really mean when you use an endoscope to do a procedure. But that's a whole other topic, and we don't have time for that. So, we discussed how it would be nice somehow how our two journals could work together. Do you have any interest in, or do you think that it would be worthwhile, I should say, to maybe work together with maybe some of your editorial board members and maybe come up with a survey on transplant surgeons' perceptions of AI, and maybe even is it time for a white paper on AI and transplant surgery, or even a guideline paper? What do you think?
So guideline, I'm not sure about guideline, but working on a survey, working on paper. I mean, this is it's like an octopus. There are so many aspects to it. So working on AI and transplantation is a huge interest to me. And as a matter of fact, I am there is interest. The current president of the European Society of Organ Transplantation is very interested in this, and this has been a topic of plenary sessions in these congresses. And I've been entertaining the idea of putting together a special issue of Transplant International on the topic of AI in transplantation. So answer yes. Interested in doing a survey? Yes. A guideline paper? Why not? I think it should be based on something a little bit more solid that we don't have yet. But yes, currently in organ transplantation, AI has been developed quite well by mostly two groups. The Paris transplant group with Alexandre Loupy, who's working on algorithms and what is called the iBox, which is a predictor of graft survival based on a lot of factors that are clinical, lab values, pathology, etc., goes into this system, is analyzed, and it's constantly learning. So, it has been approved by the European Medicine Agency, which is the equivalent of the FDA for the European Union, as a valid surrogate endpoint for clinical studies. The other group is the group of Doris Segev, who is now in New York, but was at Johns Hopkins, who has worked more on predictive models based on analysis of big data from registry, etc. He has produced a massive amount of papers. I think his output something like 100 articles per year, and all of them very well cited. Yeah. Check him out. So this is another field of interest, predictions and matching of donors and recipients, matching of recipient and type of procedure, these kinds of things. So these are the two fields where artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., can mix together with clinical data, etc., or big data. So there are many things that can be done, and the possibilities are endless at this stage. So
yeah, I think putting it together, we'll definitely start with a survey, and then maybe we'll use the survey responses to create like a white paper, just some general statements on what our editorial board members and your editorial board members agree upon for things that we should focus on in transplant surgery in the future. I actually have someone in mind who I was just on the phone with, actually, before talking with you, who's a transplant surgeon in Austria, and I think I'll have him start to come up with a survey, and I'll share it with you. But I think that would be a great way to start collaborating. And obviously, since it's on transplant, I think it would be better to publish in your journal, because I think it'll be appreciated more. Maybe, who knows, maybe we could publish the survey results in our journal, and maybe like we'll do like a white paper with statements validated by your editorial board, and that'll be a paper that we'll do in your. And I think that'll actually be great. I think that'll solve any issues.
This sounds very good to me. Very good to me.
Yeah, no, this is great. So Thierry, it's fantastic to see you again. It's fantastic to get you here on the podcast. I think we're going to be working closely together, and hopefully, actually, we're going to have to figure out how we can work this in with Tbilisi State University. Can you actually tell me how you met Dimitri Kordzaya? How did you get involved with TSU?
So I got involved with TSU actually through my wife. So Ekaterina she's also a surgeon by training, but she moved to basic research, and her research topic is the development of a bioartificial pancreas. So she's really a basic scientist. She's always kept ties with the scientific community in Tbilisi. So she works full-time in Geneva, actually, but she still has a professorship at in another university in Tbilisi. But all this scientific transplant community in Georgia is not very large, so everybody knows everybody. And I remember the first time I met Dimitri was probably close to 10 years ago, like 8 years ago, where you organized a symposium on transplantation in the same building where we were
Nice.
to discuss that with the stakeholders, and it was much more artisanal than it was this time. So
Right.
it was interesting. And the second thing is we got involved together in the writing of a grant for a European grant that we missed by not by much. So we had pretty good marks, but at least it set the basis for a future collaboration. I think the project we were proposing can be redesigned, rewritten, and resubmitted maybe to another funding agency. So we have these projects together, and that's the way we got involved.
Yeah, no, it's I always surprised at what a beautiful country Georgia is, with such a rich history, and it's mind-boggling that they have, I think, less than 4 million Georgians, and they have one of the oldest, richest histories. I mean, it's on par with Italy, Greece, Lebanon. It was Turkey. It's amazing. So I look forward to going back, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you.
Great. Well,
okay.
thanks again, Professor Thierry Berney. We'll be in touch, and I look forward to our future collaborations. Okay.
Thanks for having me, and I'm not used to have somebody pronounce my name the right way, so thank you for that, Andrew.
After more than 5 years in Paris, finally paying off.
Wonderful. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.